Adiós, gracias.
Adiós.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you very much for coming to the call of RTVE. Once again, our company is very present in the San Sebastian Film Festival, wagering in favor of the Spanish audiovisual industry. The corporation has participated in 27 films, a figure which is going to be extended in short, and we hope to achieve the average that we've achieved in the last few years, which is 40 projects participated in and 28 documentaries. As well as this, Channel 1 and Channel 2 has programmed more Spanish cinema, that is to say 433 films that represent 87.3% of those offered in all TV channels. The first channel has programmed 99 Spanish films, and Channel 2, 334 in prime time. The greatest consumption. What we've done is screened 122 titles. Channel 2 is a reference with 133 titles in prime time. A total of 37.5 million spectators have seen Spanish cinema on Spanish TV, or said in other words, 82.2% of the Spanish population. The most seen film has been Campeones, with 2.6 million spectators, which is 16.3% of quota, and The Animated Forest with 286,000 spectators, 5.8% of the screen quota. The cinema is also present in all our news programs, in our program magazine and specialized TVE programs, the history of our cinemas, Versión Española, Neighborhood, Atención Obras, sequences in 24 hours, and as well as in the cultural programs such as El Ojo Crítico. Okay, it's one of the pillars, RTVE Play, which is the new video platform. If you've not downloaded it, we encourage you to do so. It's with an extensive a catalog of titles of international and international films. This is the data we are convinced with defending Spanish cinema. We like Spanish cinema. Amelia Velasco is the head of the audiovisual programs on Spanish TV. Thank you very much for giving us this space in San Sebastian to meet each other. I want to thank particularly to those people who are represented, the films participated by RTVE, and actors in the industry that are accompanying us this morning. So therefore, thank you very much. It's a party for cinema. Now, we want to give Spanish TV Maria's just given us the statistics that you can see in the press document that has been given you. But okay, apart from the support and the presence of Spanish cinema, we believe Spanish TV RTVE has a fundamental role to play in the audiovisual industry. You know that we are a new team, which we've just landed in Spanish TV. The Spanish TV channels. We are reflecting in depth, and we will be able to extend and provide that information in the next few weeks. I want to take full advantage of this meeting to reflect upon, very briefly, how we're seeing the situation of the cinema industry. And we are going through a legislative change. The new general law for audiovisual material is being passed, or is being discussed. A new framework mandate will be passed, and we're at a time in which the industry is being transformed. New actors are modifying the rules of play of the game, and we've held meetings with producers and associations of producers to understand with the ICA2L to reflect upon this together and to play a very active role in this transformation, which will enable us to continue to support Spanish cinema. We believe that we should also reinforce the production of films. We want to accompany all the initiatives that are carried out in this sense, and then from RTVE, we want to carry out a specific campaign to encourage spectators and audience to come back to the film theaters and so that we can continue to have the promotion that we've always had. This edition this year in San Sebastian is a testimony of the enormous creativity and the talent we have in this market, and we have to help for this. We have to help this for this to continue developing. I don't want to go into further details. What we want to do is to celebrate cinema, and that's why we're going to see a short video clip that we're going to show you in a moment. RTVE, which informs you, which undoubtedly it moves everyone. RTVE, which is what you like. Amalia said it's the celebration of Spanish cinema, and we have accompanying with us was several of the protagonists of Mediterráneo, The Lord of the Sea, Matel Barrena, the director, and the cast, Eduard Fernández, Dani Rovira, Ana del Castillo as well.
Unos socorristas de Badalona, lleváis meses en Lesbos. Nadie os ha contratado, nadie os paga por esto. ¿Hasta cuándo vais a seguir?
Cuando no seamos necesarios, nos vamos. Hay que ir. Hay que ir a Lesbos.
¿Cómo que te vas? ¿Cómo que te vas a Lesbos?
Hay que echar una mano a los socorristas griegos.
Mañana en el primer vuelo nos vamos.
No, no nos vamos.
Óscar, me lo prometiste 2 días.
Pero yo cómo iba a saber que las cosas estaban así. Me quedo aquí a hacer nuestro trabajo. ¿Qué te has traído esta? Coge la bolsa que te llevo al aeropuerto.
¿Pero que eres el dueño de la isla ya?
Yo soy tu padre.
Ah, coño, es que como a veces se me olvida.
Joder, qué cerca está Turquía, ¿eh? ¿Cuántos pueden cruzar al día? ¿Cuántos?
Hasta 3.000. Esto no es como lo que has hecho hasta ahora.
Oscar, estoy preparada.
Pero si ayudáis a los que vienen, quizá vengan más.
Yo soy un socorrista, ¿no? La ley del mar dice que hay que proteger la vida, que no hay que dejar un náufrago a la deriva. Y eso es lo que nosotros hacemos. Nada más y nada menos.
No one invite these people. No one invite you.
¿Que nos deja usarlas?
¿Sabes para qué?
¿Cómo para qué? Tú viniste aquí por una foto.
Que esto es una crisis humanitaria, que nos viene grande, Óscar.
No somos el equipo de élite que vaya a solucionar esto. Esto es así.
Mira, que yo vine aquí para ayudarte, gilipollas, a protegerte.
¿Protegerme de qué?
Y ti, tío.
¿Y qué dirías a quienes cuestionan lo que estáis haciendo?
Bueno, y también está con
We also have with us Beatriz Bodega, who's the producer of Érase una vez Euskadi, which we were able to enjoy that film here in El Cursal. Welcome to all of you. I'm going to leave you with my colleague Elena Sanchez, who is the presenter of the history of our cinema on Channel 2. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm looking at the images of all of those films in which Radio Televisión Española participates. And when we say we are cinema, seeing a lot of the faces here. And I would like to say hello, Sergi Lopez, who's another one of the protagonists of the film, of Mediterráneo, Oscar Camps, who's in the origin of everything. I would also like to, hello to Manuel Martínez Cuenca, the director of The Daughter, and General Berbeira, the producer of The Daughter, who has been well received. But Tosta Morla, it's the first time they get involved in the world of cinema. Great work, and I'm glad of listening to that song, The Queen of the Trenches. And once upon a time in Euskadi, we've got Manu Gomez, the director, who's here, and I had a chance to talk this morning. We also have Betika Bitsmark. Hi, how are you? And also the director, DOP, Javier Salmones. Hi, and thank you very much for being here. For us, it's very important to feel that we form part of a family and that love we had for cinema. First of all, I'm going to ask you, Marcel, so that you can give us the whys and whereabouts of the origin. 5 years preparing this film. You had something else in hand. Danny's also with you in the outset. From the outset, why do you feel you have to tell this story, and also do it from a fiction standpoint, because these stories are normally told from a documentary standpoint, and perhaps it doesn't make it as far vis-a-vis audience? Well, fiction has no borders, and even less so nowadays. Danny and myself had finished a film called 100 Meters, and we were looking for another project. We started to write a few things on paper, but having breakfast with Antonio Forguera, for example, the producer, we talk about the story of the lifesaver from Barcelona who went to Lesbos with a backpack, that lifesaver, and we saw things quite clearly. There are stories that have to be told. Cinema has that power, the power of illustrating and creating a memory, and to overcoming ignorance, and to struggle and fighting against fear, which is created by that ignorance. So therefore, we were under the obligations of explaining this. I called Danny that morning. I said, we've got to do this project. We saw it all quite clearly. We started to work with Oscar for 5 years. Eduard participated, and we constructed the script. And the first, initially, it was quite clear from the outset was to make it with Televisión Española. So thank you very much for Televisión Española. It would have been impossible to do it without them. And thank God that's why we're here today. And we were always fantasizing where we were going to premiere the film, what we were going to do with the film. San Sebastian was our dream. So we're very happy to be here. This evening, you will premiere in the Radio Televisión Gala in the Victoria Eugenia Theatre. And that's where we're going to meet up. Danny, the obsession was to show all of this in a very true way, close, without showing off. We didn't want to go over the top. We wanted to stick straight to the real story, albeit there's a love story, but here you went to what was very important. Is that right? Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. We're very happy to be able to come here with this project under our arms, in this historical film festival. It wasn't easy. It's to tell something which sometimes is something that can't be, it's unapproachable, this humanitarian crisis that has been floating, has been hitting Europe and the Mediterranean for so many years. It was very difficult. And I remember talking with Marcel and also talking with Oscar when we started to create the script. Oscar said something that was quite a key element with that. I say, okay, let's tell the story of how everything started from here, but with the focus placed on the people there. Because the genuine protagonists of this film are the victims who have had to escape their homes and their countries. They've had to separate from their families because of political reasons, war, and so on. And Oscar said the important thing is to tell the story of the people from there, to focus upon them. I think that in this film, through characters who are flesh and bone. They could have been any one of us. And the peculiarity was that they were lifesavers and they dared to do so. And their kindness, and they said, let's go and help them. But through these characters, that's the way that I think that we've managed to achieve that a spectator or the audience can find some empathy with all the immigrants, people that come from there, that are just like us, that have got their dreams and their families and their projects, life projects, and I believe that we've managed to achieve this. I think that through these characters that are so humane or human, I think people can feel empathy towards them, because this is like everything. Today it's them, but who knows who is going to be. It could be us. Let's hope not. But oh, God forbid, I hope that we will be treated sufficiently in a dignified way if this happened to us. I think this is what we have to do as well. So therefore, it's a story of anonymous people, small people that can do big things. Like, for example, having saved thousands of people over these years. Eduardo always said this morning that it's difficult for this story. The story can't move people, for example. We can see that any person at any place can do something to help other people. Is that correct? Yes. Good morning, almost afternoon, I would say. I remember when they talked to me about the project, I said, well, open arms. I knew more or less, like many people, what the story was about. But I said, let's hope it's not a pamphlet or a brochure, because I think but when I saw the script and what the slant was and how it was going to tell the story from the outset, I thought it was a good way of addressing the project or approaching the project. Then we talk about general and larger things of saving mankind and saving people and go to the Mediterranean. It all comes, I'm an actor, and it all comes from one's impetus, that is to say, to feel good with oneself. A person who has a profession, everyone has a profession. Oscar is a lifesaver. And this is what's happening there. And Oscar said it would be good going there and to help those people, not pretending to go as far as go for the project to go as far as it has, but to tell that in a story, I think is very interesting. What is very interesting in the film is to get rid of these prejudices that occur, that arise. There are people that question what Open Arms is doing and so on and so forth. I think these are people that have got a poor opinion of what of themselves. And there I appeal to National Geographic and monkeys and to instinct. Any person that's at sea and sees someone who's drowning, give them a hand to help them, because one makes one feel good, and when you feel good and when you're do something good, you go say, well, what can I do to save the world? The world's a horror. But we got to do small steps that you can do to be good with yourself, feel good with yourself and with others. I think it's a way of helping others and to change the world, and frankly, that's what Oscar Camps has done and what Open Arms is doing. That's just to simply doing good. And I think that can't be judged, and I think anyone in the world, if they are serious towards themselves, would do that. Reality surpasses fiction when we talk about this. But how tough was the shoot, Anna? Hi. I wouldn't truly say that. Well, Marcel said it was like shooting in hell. What was your experience? And then we'll allow Marcel to talk. Well, the fact is we've been trying to recreate a reality of which we are very far away from. That's what we're trying to recreate. What the people in Open Arms do, when the truth is we're just actors who are trying to do the best job possible. But we do it from absolute protection. If it were tough for me, which it was at a certain moment, and it was difficult because we're not used to shooting in the high seas because there are obstacles and difficulties, I can't imagine what it really was in real life. So therefore, it would be of the top me saying that it was difficult, it was uncomfortable at certain times. It was a challenge, but I feel quite fortunate and quite protected. What are you going to keep from this project, the experience per se? Because it was an incredible experience for me. But I think that when you approach causes of this nature, I think what you keep at the end is everything you learn and everything that you've what you've learned in the entire process, because we hear figures in the press and we see images in the media and we hear it in the background. We don't understand exactly what's happening. So therefore, when you have an experience of this nature, you gain a knowledge and know-how and knowing what they're talking about and what you listen to and you hear. The perspective of the director is always different because he's got to take charge of everything. For example, when they go, it's different to shoot on land than in the sea. Could you briefly talk about the experience? Well, the experience it's the most enriching experience I've ever lived, because the day-to-day was complex. Nevertheless, for example, if we were shooting this now, there'd be a camera in the background and a close-up for each of us, and that's it. But if you want to do this on the sea, well, the waves move everyone and moves the characters. And if you put 300 people swimming in the sea, well, things get complicated. But every day I had a feeling of great thanks and gratitude to be able to do this, because we were in the middle of the pandemic. We were coming from what happened to Danny. We had been struggling for years to make the project. I felt very fortunate every day, every second I was there, and the experience of sharing all of this with more than 1,000 real refugees who participated in the film, who came along every day and helped us. Before, it was quite clear in my mind is to show those images or give life to those images and to be fair and to be faithful to them. The challenge was, how do we manage to convey those images of what we see on the news to fiction? And we needed real refugees. When we interviewed a psychiatrist in the Moria camp, they said, what you're going to do is all well and good. It's a good idea, but these people, of course, have suffered this for real. And so it's not a movie. This is real life. And of course, what he said was quite overwhelming and so logical that it made us rethink many things. But I insisted that they had to participate. And then what happened? Well, what happened was they came to the shoot. The psychiatrist said, "Very careful, because trauma may set in, because they may have lost a baby or lost a brother, and they're going to put them back in a raft." Well, they would come along in the buses, and they were shooting, and they said, look, this is the way I got off the boat, and this is the way I picked up my son. When you've got 4 jumpers and that's all he's got, and it weighs too much, this is how you swim. Let me show you how I did it. So therefore, that we created a climate or an atmosphere where they showed us, because they had the need, the trauma. They will never lose it, but at that time they had the need of telling us their story, of creating that memory. Say, well, listen, I went through this, and I want to tell you my story. I'll tell you my story. I'll tell my story. So therefore, this has given a special soul to the film, which is there when you watch it, and we are never going to forget this, ever. And especially the message that Danny said. Say, the refugees, anonymously, give it as a concept, the others. Who are these others? So, okay, I entered into a refugee camp. I saw a girl with an iPad. And you see a 14-year-old girl, a beautiful girl with an iPad in the middle of a refugee camp. And obviously the image, well, you're shocked and you go, what are you watching? Well, I'm looking at Friends on Netflix. So, now, of course, who are these others? This could have been my daughter or my cousin watching Friends on Netflix in a refugee camp. My grandfather had to go to Germany. So who are the others and who are we? So therefore, that's what the film's about. Let's stop creating fear and forgetting about names. These are good people that do good things. That's what the film's about. And what it said, they are the ones that respect the law of the sea. The law says that a person who's adrift at sea has to be saved. A castaway has to be saved. And that's the law. And that's what the safeguards, the lifesavers in Lesbos have done. We're talking about good things, good people doing good things. And Amalia, before talking about Once Upon a Time in Euskadi, because we haven't got much time, I would like to know why Spanish television decides wagering in favor and participating in a film like Mediterranean. or better, The Law of the Sea. Well, there has to be a story to tell, and there has to be a good story, and that story, to a certain extent, is going to touch the heart and the minds of the people, and the audience are going to see it. So therefore, from that point of view, this film is a good example. It's a story which is very exciting, a lot of emotion. Those that have seen it, you know it, and those who will see it, it does provoke all types of emotions that I think are being reflected in this press conference. But above all, it gives a lot of hope, because at the end of the day, it's the story of a person who wants to take a step forward, takes a step forward to change things that he doesn't like. So therefore, we thought it was a beautiful project that plus had this idea that Eduard Coveid of getting rid of all of these prejudices, breaking down these prejudices to generate debate and calm down all of the noise, and that's it. The film will be premiered in the Radio Televisión Española Gala. Last night there was a gala of Radio Televisión Española where they screened Once Upon a Time in Euskadi. We have the director, Beatriz. We've got a great past, Televisión Española. Afternoon for Wrath. That is to say, you wanted to tell the story of Manu Gomez, who debuts in the feature film, and you've got a good eye. Well, thank you very much to Televisión Española and for the festival for allowing us to be here today. To my colleagues, congratulations for the film. I loved it. I think these types of films are necessary. It was marvelous. Congratulations. Well, this film, apart from this, is parallel to The Law of the Sea, because it talks about immigration within our own country, which is something that's never dealt with. When we talk about 4 family members in the 1980s, where there were certain barriers because these were people who came to look for work from the south of Spain to the north of Spain, and they didn't know how to make it to the end of the month in their territory, which was Granada. Well, I read the script and it moved me quite a lot. I loved it. It also brought about personal experiences, and when we see the film, when you see the certain generations, one way or another, you identify with certain characters, and you see a lot of experiences that you've lived or lived close by. And it moved me so much, I said that this film had to be told. This story has to be told. It was the Mano, a premier director, debut director, told me the story with a certain energy and passion, and I saw it and visualized it in such a way. I said, well, we've got to make this film, and that's when we started 5 years ago, and it was very difficult to do the project. Televisión Española supported us from the outset. Without Televisión Española, we wouldn't have been able to make the film, because these types of films are complicated to shoot and more delicate from the point of view that they move things and stir things up. And this is kind of a film. These are films that have to be made, and Televisión Española gave us the backing, and that's what made me start. The film takes us back to the summer of the 1980s, and it talks about tough things like ETA, violence, AIDS, drugs, labor precarity, for example, that from the pure look or perspective of 12-year-old kids. So therefore, this means that we can talk about these issues, but we should see them from a different perspective. Yes, if when you read the script, you look at it with your own being an adult in your experiences, but then Manu, with his marvelous directing work, it's perceived differently. It's perceived from the perspective of the children, and that's how we want to tell the story. The 4 kids are marvelous. They're very natural in their performances, and everything that's tough is seen differently, because when you're a child, you're 12-year-olds, a close death is lived differently when you live it when you're 40 or 50 years old. It has nothing to do with it. So we see the film from their perspective, from their outlook. So therefore, you realize that when you leave, that you've seen a really tough story, you leave the film after seeing the film, but you have encountered sort of feelings. And what are the feelings that were generated last night when it was premiered here in San Sebastian? Because we're talking about a reality that took place here in the Basque Country. Well, in general, people have told us that they've been quite moved. The word is emotion, and another word that they've used is how tender. Emotion and tenderness are 2 words that the audience has described the film with. Okay, as we've got running out of time, I think it's a round of applause for all of them. And with this round of applause, with that emotion that you were talking about and that tenderness, we close the transmission via streaming. And now we will give the floor to any questions that may arise. Yes, please. Hi, good morning. Congratulations, and more than congratulations, thank you for making the film. I'd like to know, as regards to the film, The Law of the Sea, whether it's personally changed your perception of what happened and what is happening now. I know that you've been talking to all of them, and what he's told you, what you've said is much more than what was seen on the screen, but I would like to know whether it's changed you personally after making the film, of what you thought beforehand about this war and the situation that occurs in the film. The feeling that I have, what I take with me, it sets a framework. If you've been in La Palma or you're from La Palma, the volcano, you live it one way or another way. If you've got a friend who's Iranian, when they talk about Iran, you know that it's not generic. You know what? Now when they talk about refugees, when they talk about saving people, I know what it is. So therefore, I put myself in the situation. I know what it is, because otherwise it's too generic, and it's very easy to defend yourself from emotions and to leave it as a barrier. And that barrier, I get rid of it, and I live the situation, get into my situation. That's what we actors do when we perform. And you live it as something much, much closer, much more possible. And it's as if this could happen to yourself or to a brother of yours. Generally, the refugees, we have the idea that when someone comes from abroad, that they're poor, they've got nowhere, not even to die. They haven't got a place to die even. So therefore, it's quite curious in this case that nevertheless, the university professors, students, these are people that are middle class, high class people as well. And we who are middle class, it brings you even closer. I don't know how it sounds, but it makes you feel, it gives you, puts a mirror in front of you, really. And I think that the Western world should start to think, and what we have to collaborate in is for this not to happen. But it has brought me much closer to them and the situation. Congratulations, first of all, and thank you very much for the film, and also congratulations and good luck with the pre-selection for the Oscars. Characters, how did you construct the characters when you worked, whether you were able to interview Esther and Oscar or Gerard, or did you take another route? Because I enjoyed the film very much, and the performances are excellent. It's very, every scene is very, very natural. Thank you. Oscar was beside me all the time. I needed him there because it's an issue that I didn't know too in depth, and I wanted to be very respectful and very faithful to, and as it's a true story, obviously the magnitude of this challenge was enormous, so therefore Oscar was with me all the time. In the tough and the easy and tough moments, when the script didn't work, and when it worked, it did. He helped us to find solutions, nevertheless. When finally we managed Spanish television, Televisión Española, to support us, and everything, was in favor, the actors entered, and the real characters, as you saw on the screen. And here you've got Oscar, and you've seen what Eduard does in the film. Eduard did some work that I've never seen, of submerging himself into a character at a level that I can't even tell you because it's quite personal, but incredibly, just like Anna, Danny, Alex Monet, who plays Santi Palacios, Sergio Lopez, they all felt the need of having to tell the story, and I'm very happy that you've noticed it, because there's at no moment we believe we were making a film. We were doing something that we needed to do. And I'm not too sure whether I've left anything out. Any further questions?
No.
No? Okay, well, we will continue to enjoy our cinema. We will continue to enjoy this marvelous city. And congratulations to all of you, and congratulations to the San Sebastian Film Festival. And Elena Sanchez, as you know, expects to see you in the stories of our cinema. We'll watch you on RTVE, the RTV that you want.